Ryan Horvat on BetMGM tonight, 7 to 11 Eastern from BetQL.
This program is a paid commercial announcement and in no way represents the views of WPHT or its management.
WPHT, WPHT-HD, WOGL HD3 Philadelphia. An Odyssey station. Investor Schooling Live with Phil Falcone and Larry Steinhaus on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT.
Good afternoon and welcome to Investor Schooling Live. Coming to you from Investor Schooling headquarters, I'm Phil Falcone here with my business partner, Larry Steinhaus. We are the founders of Investor Schooling. Get ready to learn real estate investing and stock option investing. Call us anytime during the show with your questions at 855-939-1137. That's 855-939-1137. That's right. We're a live program, so you can call us anytime during the show, and we will take your calls. Don't worry about what we're talking about because we love to take calls from people listening to our show. Investor Schooling is located in Langhorne, Pennsylvania, serving the Philadelphia area in a real brick-and-mortar building. We are local guys, accessible to our students a minimum of 2 nights per week. If you want to learn this business, the business of real estate investing and stock option investing, you want to learn it from people who live it every day. So let me tell you what the topics of our show are going to be today. Phil, that's me. I'm giving away my BMW. Go to winphilscar.com. winphilscar.com, and you can see all the rules that you would have to follow in order to win my car. We're also going to be talking about you make money when you buy. In the real estate business, you make money when you buy. All right. We're going to also talk about being counter-cyclical, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a story when I went down to Florida in 2012. What does Phil love about vacation rentals? We're going to discuss vacation rentals, a great way to make money in this business. What is better, stocks or real estate? We're also going to be talking about how long will this real estate seller's market continue. We're going to talk about a couple of tips from Donald Trump. Enhance your location and never pay too much. We're going to discuss those topics. And at the end of the show, we're going to be discussing the stock option Sultan picks of the week. If you invest in stocks or stock options, you do not want to miss the last 10 minutes of the show. That is where we will be giving you the picks that we will be investing in each and every week right after this show. So if you want to be able to have a good stock tip for Monday, make sure you're listening to the end of the show. Larry, what's happening?
Phil, I have to tell you, we have some interesting fans, and some of them actually don't even like us.
It's fine with me.
No, really, it's fine with me too.
I've already got enough friends.
I know.
In fact, I can't even make room for any new ones.
So if you guys call the 855-939-1137, you can speak to us right now. 855-939-1137, and again, you can speak to us right now. But we're on 12 different radio stations during the week, and that same number, 855-939-1137, rings to a phone that I pick up in case somebody's listening to the show and they want to talk to me about something. Well, this has been a very strange week of people who have been, complaining about us. I had a guy yesterday, last week, I don't know if we remember, we talked about this. We talked about the fact that you should put your kids on payroll, have them take the $12,500 deduction, and then you deduct that from your business, and you basically put your kids on payroll, deduct it from your business, you get a tax deduction of another tax deduction of $12,500, and then you use that money to invest it in college or a Roth or whatever. We talked about it last week. I had a guy call me up yesterday, and he was mad at me. And the only thing I could figure out is he was mad at me because I told him how to do it, and his accountant didn't. And he asked me every single possible question about how to do this. And then he got really mad. He goes, I think I have enough information. He hung up on me. It was very strange.
Should have just told him to come to the school.
Well, I did, but I don't think clearly he's one of those people who thinks he's smarter than everybody on the entire planet and can't learn anything. And when he hears something that has a cognitive dissonance to him, he cannot deal with it. And he couldn't deal with this at all. He I don't know. Again, I don't know if he was more upset that he hasn't been doing this his entire life, or he was more upset that he heard it, or he thinks that I'm lying.
I also got an interesting voicemail left from me.
Oh, I have to hear this one.
I'll just give you the quick summary. Yeah, I just heard the end of your radio show, blah, blah, blah. Specifically, since you were going to... can't understand your thinking. Why are you talking about anti-vaccine conspiracy theory? Well, I guess that if you're listening, how about, let me give you a couple of good reasons. I don't trust the government, for one, okay? And obviously, half the country agrees with me because they haven't got the vaccine either.
Oh, no. Only about 23%, because 70-something% have gotten the first shot, apparently. I don't know if I agree with those numbers, but
I don't believe any of
I
that.
don't believe that. I know, but by the way, we're a financial show, and we just talk about things, and we're having a good time on the radio. And whether we're pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, I mean, clearly Phil has just said he's anti-vaccine. I might be pro-vaccine, and I might be anti-vaccine. All I know is if you ask me if I've been vaccinated, I will say yes. That is the lesson I've learned recently. I happen to be anti-mask.
Aren't you being a good boy?
I'm anti-mask because I know they don't work. But that's it. And
The
then we've gotten
the
those calls
vaccines
too.
don't work either.
Well, apparently not, because everybody's got to wear masks again, right? So that's pretty bizarre as well. So why do we talk about this? We talk about this stuff because it affects the stock market. And if you understand that masks and vaccines and pandemics and all of that affects the stock market. So now and then, Phil and I are going to interject our opinions about what's going on in the world.
And when you add to that the closing of small businesses
Yes.
and restrictions put on small businesses, and telling people in New York City and San Francisco, which I don't live in, so I could care less, but telling those people that they can't go to the gym and that restaurants should reject their own customers.
Yes.
If I owned a restaurant, I would not do that and under any circumstance. And the city of New York doesn't even have the mechanism in place to make sure that your restaurateurs are actually vaccinated or not.
Right. And actually, if I walk into a restaurant and the person at the door says, hey, let me see your vaccine card, I'm going to say yes, but first I want to see yours and every single employee's here. Because until you show me all of those, I'm not showing you mine.
Well, also, Biden came out and said that if Americans leave the country, when they come back,
Yes.
they will not be admitted back into the United States unless they've been vaccinated. And I thought to myself, well, does the airport have a jail that I'm unfamiliar with?
Well, just fly into Mexico and go over the border.
Right, you can walk right through. Just fly into Guadalajara. It's a 20-minute ride to the fence.
Right. And walk up with your cell phone and your expensive car and jewelry and say, hey, thanks a lot, and then just let them go. That's what they're doing now. Why not?
But so
I don't know if you look Puerto Rican enough, though. Puerto Rican, Mexican enough.
I can look.
Did I say Puerto Rican? I saw Pedro laughing, so I said Puerto Rican.
I probably look more Puerto Rican than Pedro does.
So if you guys don't know, we have two producers who work for us. One's Pedro and one's Sean Serino. And listen, if you call in, you could say hi to Sean. Call in right now and say hi to Sean. 855-939-1137. And maybe we'll eventually get to finance. We're 10 minutes into the show. We haven't spoken about one thing that has to do with finances yet.
Okay, so let's get into a topic.
Okay.
You make money when you buy real estate.
Yeah, I like that. I actually like that. Actually, I tell you a great example of that. I had a student who was in the office the other day, and we were doing a coaching appointment, and he came to me, and he was buying a lot in Philly, a small lot in Philly, and he was paying $45,000 for it. Now, I realized that prices have gone insane, and I went back and forth on this lot, tried to figure out several exit strategies for him and how he can make money on this. Well, I discovered, in my opinion, now it doesn't mean that the lot's not worth $45,000. It probably is worth $45,000, but I personally wouldn't have paid more than $20,000 for it, based on every single exit strategy that I came up with, and one of them being that is if he has to sell this thing right away, who's he going to sell it to? He found one comp for $75,000, like 10 blocks away. And I'm skeptical on whether the guy actually paid $75,000, because sometimes they mix that price into the building of it, so they have different tax. So I don't really know if the guy really paid the $75,000 for that lot. So he's got one comp of $75,000 on a lot. Every other comp was between $20,000 and $30,000. This one was slightly bigger, but I did not see it, and I advised him that he should lower his price if he buys it. But he seems pretty adamant, and then I finally said, "Look," I said, "if you're okay with losing $25,000 if you made a mistake, then you're okay with it." And he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm okay with it if I made that mistake." But he had to buy it right, and he would make the right amount of money if he buys it right.
It's interesting. It brings up a question. Suppose I owned 10 lots in a neighborhood in Philadelphia. I could technically say that I paid more for each and every one of those lots than I actually did. Hence, I would be manipulating the comps of lots in that particular neighborhood.
All right, so it's not exactly that simple because there are records that say what you paid for them. That's why what we do is we typically say that we typically get what's called a nominal deed, which says we paid zero for whatever property we bought. Mm-hmm. So or a dollar, depending on what the title company records. So it's anywhere from $0 to $1. So we're no longer manipulating. We're trying to not be tracked. Now, there's another way.
But I'm suggesting that if you did own 8-10 lots in the same neighborhood, it would behoove you to do that.
So if you bought 8-10 lots at the same time from the same person, it would be easier to do that. You can actually say, listen, let's say it was $10,000 a lot, and you bought you bought 10 lots. You could make one lot that you paid for $40,000 and divide the rest across the others, and yeah, you probably could get away with that. And nobody would know the difference, and you could manipulate the prices. The only problem is that's an anomaly. You'll only see one. Now, what I tend to do is, you and I have the same thing. We rent very high. So when we have a property that we're going to rent, we rent it very high. You know, like if the typical neighborhood's going for 15, I'll put it up for 1650 or 1700 just to see if I get it, and typically I get it. Now, a lot of times I won't even bother. I put it in the MLS, and I put it in the MLS specifically because when I rented that high, I've now changed the average rent in the market because the MLS will go to Zillow, it'll go to Rentometer, and all of those numbers will change, and it'll raise the average rent in the neighborhood. So,
and besides the fact that you can do it very easily today.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I do that in the MLS, and it's a great thing to do, and it really helps. I find it a lot of agents who have rental properties, they don't do it. They need to put it in the MLS.
Another great reason to have a real estate license.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going to be a real estate investor for real, having a real estate license is a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer.
And where should they hang their license, Phil?
Where should they hang their license? They should hang their license at a place called the Investor Brokerage.
Who owns the Investor Brokerage, Phil?
We do.
Oh, yeah, okay. By the way, if you want to call in, 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137, and we're talking about a whole bunch of stuff. We're talking about how to buy properties properly.
Do you want to tell somebody one of the stories about like a recent house that you bought where you got paid to buy the house?
Oh yeah, it's pretty common actually. Probably the latest one was a townhouse that I bought in Pottstown actually. So somebody called me up. I've been sending out mail. Somebody called me up and said, "Hey, listen, I need to sell my house in a hurry." The story of the conversation is a very funny story, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just talking about the house. So I bought the house, made him an offer of $60,000. He agreed to it. The house was a wreck. I made him an offer of $60,000. I felt that the house, after I put in maybe $30,000, would be probably worth about $120,000. So instead of going to the bank and borrowing 80% of $60,000, which wouldn't have given me enough, I actually went to a private lender and borrowed $100,000. So when I borrowed $100,000, I bought the property for $60,000. So at closing, I didn't get a check for $40,000. I got a check for about $32,000, $33,000 after the closing costs. I think I put in $28,000 to fix it, and the rest goes in my pocket. Now that property, after I pay all my expenses, including the mortgage that I borrowed from a private lender at 8%, so he's getting 8%, which is fantastic. And I'm getting, every month, I make about $750 positive cash flow after all expenses. So I created money out of thin air. I got a check at the end. Probably netted about $7,000 after I paid for the repairs. And I make about $750 a month on the rent. So I made money out of thin air.
That's a great cash flow for a piece of real estate.
It is, absolutely.
especially one that's only worth about 120. grand.
Actually, and now it's actually worth 160 because by the time I finished it, and after the COVID, crisis, the COVID housing crisis, which I still don't understand that one, the prices have all gone up, and it's probably worth about 160 now. Now, here's the other thing too. So you're listening, and you're saying, hey, who would lend you $100,000? So think about this: the guy lent me $100,000. His risk is nothing. In fact, my paperwork and the paperwork that we have you use in investor schooling says that we put a confession of judgment in, which means that if I don't pay him, he gets to keep the house. He gets the house right away. He gets the house after 3 payments automatically if I miss 3 payments. So think about that. The house is worth 150. He lent me 100. He wants me to pay him back, but if I don't pay him back, he's actually in a better position than he is if I don't pay him back.
In fact, at our school, we have a number of people who are basically private lenders who are
That's
here
correct.
at our school. And if you came to the school, people don't just lend you money. You don't bump into a guy at a bar who's a millionaire and he lends you money. It doesn't work like that. You have to develop a relationship with somebody where they know you, they trust you, they like you. They feel comfortable lending you money because you have exhibited to them that you are an intelligent real estate investor who has found a good deal. And then you will find that the money will flow to you.
And then, of course, the question is, well, if I've never done a deal before, how are they going to believe that I can do a deal?
Well, if you're in a school like Investor Schooling, the advice of Larry and myself will help guide you to have a successful
Yeah,
deal.
not only that, I've actually gotten on the phone with the lenders.
Yeah, I
and
know you've done
explained
that,
the
yes.
system to them, how it works, what the paperwork we use is, not as an attorney, but as an advisor or basically as a teacher. And I said, this is what we do. This is the paperwork. I suggest you have it reviewed by an attorney, but you don't have to if you don't want to. But I suggest you have it reviewed by an attorney, and this is how it works. I've actually helped people get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably over $1 million of money to invest in real estate.
Okay, you want to hit the next topic?
Let's do it.
So
Wait. I want to go into Win Phil's car, though.
Okay, go ahead. Talk about it.
So if you guys have been listening the last couple of weeks, about 2 weeks ago, Phil decided to give his car away to a listener. Actually, a listener, anyone who is involved with us, who knows who we are. If you go to winphilscar.com, you can enter the contest. And there's some really cool videos over there if you want to go see it. It's funny because people are holding out to the last minute. I actually know somebody who actually told me today they were holding out to the last minute because they had a month to go to enter. Don't do that. The sooner you enter, the better. So I actually think I might even be able to play one of the videos, at least the audio portion of one of the videos, and it's hysterical when you think about it. Okay, so this is a family of 3. It's a mother, a father, and a daughter, but you have to listen to this. It's really great. This is their video. This is what they talk about. So the video for the contest, just so you know, they have to have a real estate tip, and then their videos will be voted on come September. So here it is.
Hi everyone, this is Eric.
I'm Paula.
And I'm Angelina, and we are students at Investor Schooling. I want to win Phil's car because it will be the best birthday gift for my dad. My best real estate tip is to go to Investor Schooling. Duh! Phil and Larry are awesome teachers. They will teach about stock options, wholesaling, subject to, lease options, and many more real estate and investment subjects. Plus, they wear cool outfits to class.
Also, you can get private sessions with Phil, Larry, Jamie, and Evan.
And they offer many fun events like Money Multiplier and this chance to win Phil's car.
My real estate tip is if you truly have a passion in becoming a real estate investor, no matter what age you are, it's never too late to change your life for the better.
And remember, it's not Realtor, it's Realtor. So check out Investor Schooling. See you later.
That's my favorite part when she says it's not Realtor, it's Realtor. I think that's hysterical.
Well, I love that part.
Absolutely.
What's also impressive is, like, I'll meet people out there and, they're like, I don't know if I can do real estate investing. Well, the girl you just heard talking, she's 11.
Yeah, right.
And let me tell you something. I don't know much about her, but I can tell you this. I'm fairly comfortable that she's going to own a house before she gets to high school.
Yeah, actually, so far we had one student who, in high school
Yeah.
who did a wholesale deal and made $10,000 in high school. He was in a senior year of high school. He had 4 months left to go to graduate high school, and he did his first real estate deal and made $10,000.
He bought his first house while he was still a senior in high school.
Yeah, he happened to be 18,
Yeah.
which made it work. But it was hysterical that he did that. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you want to call in, 855-939-1137, 855-939-1137. And if you want to win Phil's car, it's a BMW Z4. Why wouldn't you want a BMW Z4?
It's a BMW Z4 convertible.
Convertible. Yeah, right.
Right.
That's right.
With extra wide tires, rims. You push a button and the roof goes in the trunk. I mean, it's going to help you get to places you got to go to faster. It should help you with your dating life.
Hey, did I have to keep the car? Can they sell it?
No, they can do whatever they want.
They can
with
do it.
it.
It's their
They
car,
can pick
right?
up the car the day they win it and drive it to a dealership and sell it.
I know. They'll probably get between 15 and 20 grand for it, easily.
Probably.
I find it hysterical that people aren't doing it. Anyway, winphilscar.com. So what's next, man?
All right, so next I was going to talk a little bit about being counter-cyclical, okay? So that's a big word with a whole lot of letters in it, but the bottom line
Can you
is
spell that word?
Yes. COUNTERCYCLICAL.
Can you do it without taking a breath in between the letters?
All right. So what I'm basically saying is the George Costanza method. Do the opposite. All right?
Oh, I remember that one. That
Yes.
was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a great episode. So George, he said, everything I do is wrong. So from now on, whatever my instincts are, I'm going to do the opposite. And that's really what you should do as a real estate investor. Whatever the herd is doing, you should do the opposite. Now, what the herd's doing right now, I can't say there's a place for you to jump in. I'm not completely sure I want to say that. But what I see coming down the road is, let's talk about Philadelphia for a minute. In Philadelphia right now, we have all of these landlords who aren't getting paid because they're not allowed to evict their tenants. And I just saw a statistic. It's something like $83 million is owed, or $830 million in the United States. $830 million in the United States is owed in back rent. Now, do you think those landlords are going to collect that money?
No, they're never going to collect it all. They may collect portions of it, but they're never. You're right. They're never going to collect it all.
They're never going to collect
Right.
it, okay? They'll be lucky to get anything, okay? And so what does all that mean? Those people are going to lose their properties. The landlords are going to lose their properties. If they can't collect rent, they can't collect back rent, how on earth are they going to be able to make their mortgage payments? Unless they're independently wealthy, I don't see how. Most landlords are not independently wealthy. They own a couple of properties, and they need their tenants to pay them rent. And this situation is maddening, how the city the local counties, the government, the national government, Biden, keep extending this moratorium on evictions. And let me tell you something. I've evicted a lot of people in my career. The system never worked that well anyway.
That's right.
So if you delay evictions for a year and a half, do you think the system's going to work any better? It's
No,
going to be.
it'll probably be 6 months of hearings for people who.
How could it be 6 months? It's a year and a half of no evictions. They got to be at least a year and a half behind.
6 months of the people who actually qualify to be evicted, the people who are absolutely qualified to be evicted, because there's going to be people who are not qualified to be evicted now. Which is
Almost all of them are going to be.
It's the craziest thing I've ever
Almost
seen.
all of them are going to be qualified for eviction. The problem is, even if the process started tomorrow morning, and they started evicting people tomorrow morning, you would need a year and a half just to catch up to the backlog that they had before
You may
all
be
this
right.
started.
Yeah.
I don't see any way around it. It's going to be a colossal failure of real estate, specifically in places like Philadelphia.
So do you know under what grounds the CDC says that people can't be evicted?
No, I have not heard that.
So I do this show every day. It's the Money Chat Now show. It's a half-hour show that we talk about the stock market and the news of the day. And I covered this a couple of days ago, and I was shocked to tell you that it's all about the fact that if somebody gets thrown out of a house, they might go live with their brother or sister or mother and give them COVID. That's the grounds on which the CDC is saying that evictions. That the eviction moratorium is in place. It has nothing to do with the poor people. It has nothing to do with people being out of work. It has to do with the fact that somebody living in a house will be thrown out of their house and have to move in with somebody else.
I think there's another pandemic going on besides COVID, and that is
Stupidity.
Political stupidity. Political stupidity is running rampant like crazy.
Absolutely.
So back to being counter-cyclical and doing the opposite. Back in 2012, I went to Florida and bought a bunch of property. I selected Florida because of the fact that I did the minimum amount of research a human being could do. I went on Google and I said, what are the top 10 worst hit markets in America? And 3 markets popped up that were in Florida, which was perfect for me because I was already predetermined that I wanted to buy a property in Florida. So as I got older, I would just own property there and I could move right there, right? So if you live in Philadelphia, it just makes sense. People from Philadelphia, when they grew up and they went to Florida and they drove, they went down I-95 and they were on the east coast of Florida. And that's why I wanted to be in Florida, okay? So back in 2012, I wish I had gone in 2010, but I went in 2012. And when I went down there, I borrowed millions of dollars of private money and I bought a bunch of properties and I came out of that doing very well. Had I done it in 2010, I probably would have made millions more dollars, but, nobody went broke taking a profit. So you get whatever money you can get out of life. So what I did back then was there were 3 markets. Miami, actually Las Vegas was the #1 worst hit market, but I was not willing to go all the way to Nevada just to be in the real estate business. I wanted to do it in Florida. Miami was one of the markets. Cape Coral was one of them. And the other one was Sarasota. Well, I've been to Miami many times, and I knew I didn't want to be living in Miami. It's just not for me. Too many of...
You're not old enough.
Well, too many Pedros there, right? So what I did next is... I looked at Cape Coral. I hate Cape Coral. I've been there many times. I don't like the place, right? So I decided to go to Sarasota. And the minute I went there, I knew I was just like, honey, I'm home. This is for me. And that's where I did my investing. And I wish I went down there in 2010. I wish I bought twice as much stuff as I bought, but I did very well with it. So being counter-cyclical is a great policy to have as a real estate investor. And talking about these landlords in Philadelphia, what I'm saying is I see major opportunity there in the very near future.
So next week, this show will be hosted by Larry Steinhaus. Phil Falcone would no longer be allowed on the air.
Yeah. Okay, let's go